Yo, what's up? I'm Garbo. This year I've had the honor of being the design lead for the beta release of Tetrio, so this includes things like Quick Play 2, Tetra League Season 2, and the achievement system. In this video, I want to talk in depth about my personal favorite achievement, Mr. Boardwide. For those who don't know, Mr. Boardwide is an achievement that asks you to clear 40 lines with a quad in every column. In practice, what this means is that you have to stack quads cleanly enough to switch your column after each one. This is actually pretty difficult, with only 80 people having a time under 60 seconds. If we look at the top 10, you'll see... Wait, what is this guy doing here? Am I fast? The answer is no. I'm still the same 25-second sprinter that I was 4 years ago. But what's interesting is that the next slowest person in the top 10 is at 18 seconds, and the rest range from sub 17 to the world record. The reason I can compete with players almost 2 times as fast as me is because while they've had 3 months since the achievement came out, I've been playing Boardwide for multiple years. Let me explain. It all started 5 years ago, before Tetrio even existed. Back when I was doing Tetris coaching, Boardwide was one of the experimental drills that I made to try and teach a variety of stacking concepts. The first of these concepts is height filling. The drill would force you to stack exactly 4 blocks high so that when you clear the quad, the next column is free to become your next well. For example, in this instance, you have a 2 high ledge, and placing an S piece here adds 2 for a total of 4. For some other examples, this ledge is 3 high, so a J piece adds 1 for a total of 4, or this ledge that's 1 high, so I place a T piece adding 3 for a total of 4. This idea is particularly important when it comes to things like T-spins, where you have to even out the height difference between 2 stacks. Here we have a height difference of 1, so I place a J piece to add 1 and even it out. Afterwards, there's now a height difference of 2, so I use an O piece to add 2 and make another T-spin. The second concept is piece dependencies. Because of how precise your stacking needs to be, you can be dependent on multiple pieces at any given time. For example, in this case, the only piece that can fill this hole to 4 is an L piece, so I have to reserve the L piece in my queue and then plan my left stack to work without it. Dependencies are a very general stacking concept, but it's most prevalent in things like LST stacking, where the left side can be dependent on L, S, J, or Z pieces, so you've got to learn to plan your right side to not need them. The third concept is parity. I'm not going to get into a full explanation, but basically if we were to map out a checkerboard grid, T-pieces have the unique property of taking up an uneven amount of black and white squares. In practice, this means that T-pieces create really awkward stacks unless paired with another T to even it out. So again, because of how precise your stacking needs to be, you oftentimes need to be very aware and intentional about which side you place your T-pieces on. For example, here I have a T-piece dependency for bringing the right side from 1 to 4, but this would also throw off my parity, effectively making it require 2 T-pieces. So how effective actually was Boardwide as a drill? The answer is not really, like at all. While it did cover a wide range of skills, you still need to get over a fairly steep learning curve even if you've already mastered those concepts. This made it feel more like its own game mode, where using it as practice would be like if I were to recommend PC mode to learn how to stack cleanly. But even though it failed as a drill, I still found it fun enough to play every now and then over the next few years and eventually make it into achievement in Tetrio. So that brings us back to today. I have no doubt that over time I'll get pushed off the leaderboard and everyone will have like a sub 20 or something, but that day won't be for a while. In order to speed up this process, here's a quick guide on how to optimally play Boardwide. Before we even start a run, something I want to mention is the Eyepiece Budget. The lowest amount of pieces to complete a 40-line run is 100, which is a bit over 14 bags. This means that you're afforded 4 to 5 eyepieces in your stack, and the other 10 will be used on quads. This is standard for any sprint run, but where Boardwide differs is that 2 of them must be spent to clear columns 2 and 9, leaving you with an effective budget of 2 to 3 eyepieces in your stack. It's also much more punishing in Boardwide, since you oftentimes can't advance until you complete your current quad. Going over your budget will force you to overstack, and is one of the most common ways to end a Boardwide run. So going into the actual run, we can split up Boardwide into 6 phases. Being good at Boardwide means being able to smoothly transition between each of these phases. Let's go through them in order. The opening is the simplest part of the run and involves going from an empty board to clearing your first 2 quads. You can basically stack this however you want, as long as you bring the second column up to 4. The first 2 quads will cost 2 from your total eyepiece budget, The first from bag 1 to stabilize your stack, and the second from bag 3 to prepare column 2. Some people have tried openings where they start with 1/8 to save an eyepiece, but this doesn't really do anything as you'll end up having to use bag 3 or 4's eyepiece in the stack to stabilize anyways. The next thing to consider is transitioning into the first double up. The reason it's called a double up is because to fill this 2x4 box, you'll need either 2 L pieces, J pieces, or O pieces. With this in mind, the ideal scenario involves saving an L, J, or O piece from your 4th bag and pairing it with the one from your 5th. This is the most important part of the run, as having a good phase 2 can make or break the next 2 phases. If it isn't possible to use a piece from your 4th bag, usually due to the 4th eyepiece coming late, it's most preferable to avoid using L or J and use the O pieces from bags 5 and 6. This is because of the next phase, the first set of boxes. So for the first boxes phase, you'll have to create a 3x4 and 4x4 box using the 4th and 5th quads. This is a lot easier to do if you have L or J pieces, which is why it's helpful to use O instead of L or J in the double up. Again, this is why I want to emphasize how important the first double up is, since this phase could either be trivial or run ending based on how many L or J pieces you have. It's also worth noting that this section is a good place to spend your 3rd eyepiece to stabilize. In theory, the 3rd eyepiece isn't needed until your 6th or 7th quad, but it's better to place it early to give yourself more leniency in stacking. For the second phase of boxes, it's just going to be a mirror of the first phase on the opposite side. It starts with another 4x4 for the 6th, followed by a 3x3 for the 7th. Compared to the previous 2 phases, this one is significantly less strict, as you now have a big area on the left side to dump pieces on, so this is usually where you can be a little bit less mindful and speed up. The only difficult part about the second set of boxes is making sure you transition smoothly into the second double up. Similar rules apply to the last one, where you want to save an L, J, or O piece. You can also afford to use a 4th eyepiece here if you need to, which will leave your 5th for the final phase. If you finish your double up early, you can also pre-stack your final eyepiece, which then easily leads into your last 2 quads, where you don't have to worry about the right stack anymore, and can basically play 9-0 for the rest of the run. Alright, so now that I've explained everything, I'm going to be doing a live demo to showcase some of these concepts and ideas and how they play out in an actual game. So I'm just here in a custom room with gravity disabled, which will give me time to properly explain all of my thought process. So for the opening, as I mentioned before, it's the simplest part of the run. You can do this in an infinite number of ways, but the easiest is to just slam your first eyepiece in the second column. So it's super consistent, super easy. You can do it on pretty much any bag, and I'd recommend it to anyone just starting out. So after you take your first quad, now I'm paying attention to my 3rd column. So right now it's at 2, and I'm looking for 2 more up here. This can be done using an O piece, this can be done using a J piece, but because my O piece comes first, I'm gonna stick to that. And so I take the quad. And so now, as I'm waiting for my eyepiece for the second quad, I'm looking at my 4th column here. So right now I have 1 block, and I need 3 more. So that can be easily fulfilled with a T piece. I could even do it with this J piece that I'm currently holding on to if I really wanted to, and do like a Z piece here, or an S piece, a Z piece underneath. Actually, no, that wouldn't work. Not the Z piece underneath, but like a T piece here, and then use the O. Something like that. But the next thing to worry about too is my double up. So right now I see I have an O piece here, I have an L piece here, and I have a J piece. And so one of these 3 is going to be used for my double up. And ideally I want to use the O piece. So that'll influence my decision making a little bit. So from here, I think the optimal answer is to actually place it like this. And then T piece underneath. And I finish my double up. And so because I was able to double up using 2 O pieces, now what happens is I have my L and J pieces freed up. So I have an L piece here, I have a J piece here, I have another L piece here. And because of this surplus of L and J pieces, it's going to make my life a lot easier in the boxes phase. So I'm just having to do a few tucks here because my pieces are coming in awkward orders. But I take my second quad, and now, once again, I build my second box, And so now, as we go into the second phase of boxes here, I'm able to do a Z piece, S piece, T piece over top, and use my L piece on the left side. And so after that, I'm going to be doing my 3x4 here, and then my double up, and then my final quad. So the end is in sight here, and I just have to pay attention to how I'm going to handle boxes. So this is also a good time to actually use my first eyepiece in the stack. Or my first, like, optional eyepiece in the stack, pretty much. And then I take the quad from here. Now I'm looking at my L and J piece. That's going to build my 3x4 here. So that's going to take up this space with either my S or a Z piece. Probably my Z piece. And then from there, I can start looking at my double up. And so ideally this O piece goes into the double up, but because I don't have the full left stack developed, that's probably not possible. Actually, it's really bad because I have to use both O pieces here. Now what's happened is I'm forced to double up using either an L or a J piece. And so because my L comes earlier, I'm not going to use that one on the double up. So I'm going to use this one to stabilize my stacking and then look to double up with J's. This could get messy. Now, as you can see, I'm going to have to waste another eyepiece, which is not advantageous, but it's still within budget. And there we go. And because my last eyepiece came early, I'm not punished for it. But yeah, there you have it. So that's Boardwide complete. So that's it for the video. If you liked it, join my Discord server, which I just reopened, link in the description. For updates, follow me on Twitter at garbocan_. Anyways, thanks for watching.